Oh, wait, you want me to share my screen?
Oh yeah, in a minute. All
Okay.
right. Hey guys, welcome to our team call. I'm super excited about our guest speaker tonight. But before we get to introducing her and talking about her story, we're going to do some recognition to recognize all the hard work that you guys have been doing all month. So with that, we're going to hand it over to Alex, and she's going to pull up the leaderboard and go through all of you rock stars. So when you hear your name, cheer. All right, go ahead. Cheer for your friends.
Okay. So, top life changers. We have Carolyn Maroon with 20 points, Natalie Balsamo with 10, Emmy Schneider Green with 8, Taylor Gross with 8, Brittany Swanson with 6, Emily Minovets, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, 6, Michelle North with 6, Christy Kako with 4, Sarah Halley and Alicia Hendelson with 4, Amber Salmon and Shasta Borland, I hope I said your name right, with 4, and Lauren Avon with 4. And then we have Lauren Kinker, Amanda Boggiano, Chelsea Wisbar, Lauren Emmerich, Molly Bloom, Lindsay Dressig, Katie Lauver, and Lynette Hoke also with 2. I hope I said all you guys' names right. Ooh. And then our top recruiters, Carolyn and Emily with 6, Natalie Balsamo 3, Shasta Borland, Carissa Vandiver, Katie Petrullo, Sarah Howley, Taylor Gross, Victoria Godber, and Amber Salmon with 2, Brittany Swanson with 1, Caroline O'Neill, Cody Clark, Haley Altizer, Katie Lauver, Lauren Avon, Lauren Kinker, Lindsay Dressick, and Megan Scott with 1. And you guys, we have changed like a shit ton of lives. I was adding all that up and I was like, what? 104 SE points. So that's super kick-ass and I'm proud of our team. Woo.
Me too. Thanks, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome job, guys. We do have a day left, so if you want to change some more lives, go on ahead. Oh, Christy just changed another life. This been ran before. So yeah, Christy's got 6 as well. I just saw her little bubble popped up. I don't know why it didn't show up that way, but Christy's got 6. All right, so let's.
Oh, do you want me to scroll?
Get out of here. Yeah, we don't have to do that. We did this last week, this part.
Okay.
I think we're good there. I'm gonna get back to my screen here. All right, so I wanted to introduce our guest speaker. I made a cute little slide for her, so I want to show it. Although it won't let me pull it up full screen, but this is Hannah. All right, this is my friend Hannah, and we connected on Instagram, like many of you on this team. And Hannah's story is amazing. And hold on a second, I'll beat you. Hannah has a really amazing story to share with all of you, and I think it's really cool how she's been able to not only share her story just on social media, but how she's kind of created a community of others in her local, like in her school, and also even online. So the people that are following her, she's probably connecting with tons of other women who have gone through a lot of the things that she has gone through, just like we do every day as coaches. But I think it would be really awesome to hear from an outside perspective, someone who's not a coach, how she's able to take her story and the things that she's gone through in her life and really create a brand around it and share that with other people to make an impact on others around her. So she is fully recovered from anorexia and depression and anxiety, and she has built herself up from the rock bottom of her life-threatening battle to become a bright ray of hope for all who are suffering with mental illness. She shares her journey openly and transparently on Instagram as well as her blog, and she's been featured on news publications. So this girl's been on TV. How cool is that, right? And I'm sure she's going to tell you so many more things about the cool things she's doing at her school and all of that. So I'm going to hand it over to Hannah to take it away. I believe you're unmuted, so whenever you're ready to go, we'll go with that. And then when you're all done with that, I have some tips that we can take to apply the lessons learned from what you have to share with us for our businesses. So it's going to be a really awesome call, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Um, to start, I'll just give a recap of my story so at least you know where I'm coming from. And then I can talk about what I've been doing lately and building my brand and getting my message and my story out there so that I can help as many people as I can. Because unfortunately, eating disorders, depression, anxiety, it's become such a huge issue, especially within the college age population. But it's going into 30s and 40s, and it's something that's persisting if it's not treated. So my eating disorder started when I was 16, and I was in high school. It was my junior year of high school. And during that year, I call it the unlucky 13. It was 2013, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong that year. So I lost a very, very close loved one in my family to cancer. That was strike number one for me. A lot of things were going wrong with relationships and friendships that I was involved with, and people started dropping out of my life left and right. I felt like I didn't have control over, one, the death of my family, two, the friends that were now picking up and leaving. And then also my sport started to suffer. And I was always an athlete. I grew up doing gymnastics since I was 3, running track and field. And I really relied on having that strong, healthy body to be an outlet for me and a source of stress relief. So when things started to go wrong, I was grieving, appetite was suppressed, energy levels were low, and my sport started to suffer. And that was something that I wasn't really sure how to handle. And when the sport started to suffer, I started to suffer in every aspect of my life because I didn't have that source of stress relief to then go to and use it as an outlet. So I started to isolate myself and started to really kind of crave that sense of control that I was losing. So with that isolation came obsession, and I needed to find something to hold on to in order to kind of bring myself back and feel like I could get above water again, because I really felt like I couldn't catch my breath. So as these things started to slip, I decided to control the one thing that nobody else could take away from me, and that was what I chose to put into my body. Nobody could tell me what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, how much I needed to eat, and I knew that it was all going to be in my hands. So this became from an obsession to an addiction, and that addiction then evolved into exercise abuse as well. So I was never bulimic in the sense that I purged through vomiting or diuretics or anything in that sense, but it was exercise-induced purging. So with that came dramatic weight loss. As I came into my freshman year of college, with that change of environment and that change in scenery, as well as routine and everything, I was completely lost. My heart and body then started to, I don't even want to say break down, because that's a very dramatic term, but there's really no other way to explain it. My body was literally eating itself in order to survive because I just wasn't fueling it with enough food or energy or anything in order to make it sustain itself. So long story short, my freshman year was my rock bottom point. And that's not just the physical aspect of the eating disorder, but also the mental. So my body had gotten down to a point so low that the doctors told me I wasn't going to make it past the age of 21. I was 19 at the time, and hearing that, I unfortunately wasn't fazed because that eating disorder almost glorified death and made it seem like an easier outlet than what I was going through. So them saying that to me didn't scare me into getting treatment and didn't scare me into wanting to get better. It kind of encouraged me to keep going because I thought that finally I'll have an escape from this if I can just let this disorder take over and have it take my life. And that's when I realized that this is not who I am, and I was not put on this earth solely to be taken off of it 19 years later. And the fear and the anxiety and the stress in my family's life was something that also was a motivating factor for me to get my life together. So my freshman year, after my body had hit that low point, my brain was so far gone that I couldn't think, I couldn't talk, I couldn't stay awake. I was so tired. I was so consumed by these thoughts that I wasn't living my life anymore. And I wasn't with people. I wasn't talking. I wasn't eating. I wasn't doing anything to take care of myself. And that spring of my freshman year, I went into cardiac arrest. And that's when this disorder was no longer in my hands. And I had resisted treatment for 3 years leading up to that point, but they rushed me to the hospital and I wasn't allowed to come out after that. So I missed the second half of my freshman year of college getting treatment in a hospital gowns and all. I wasn't allowed to leave the hospital. People were allowed to come visit me, but I was very isolated, solely focusing on my recovery. So that's when my body started to regain some weight. They were trying to just get my body to a stable level so that I could get off the feeding tube, so that I could stop worrying about whether or not I would wake up the next morning. My body had gotten to such a low point that that was a concern. So getting in that stable state was the number one priority. Once that was attained, I was able to leave the hospital and then seek outpatient treatment, which is more of, they call it partial hospitalization. So I would go there all day long and then get to sleep at my house. And as you then progress through, it gets less and less and less until you're just seeing therapists and nutritionists a few times a week. And as you start to feel more comfortable, you're able to step away from that. So I say that I reached my full recovery about 1.5 years ago. And that within itself is a loaded statement. Not many people reach full recovery from anorexia or any eating disorder in general. I can't explain full recovery because it looks different for everybody, but being able to say that I'm completely free from those thoughts is something that I never thought I would be able to do. And now it's something that I pride myself on every single day. So within that last 1.5 years, I've taken eating disorder recovery to be my number one passion and my number one source of inspiration and motivation to keep my recovery on track. So by encouraging others to do it, I'm helping myself do it as well. So within that last 1.5 years, I made an Instagram account, Healthy Happy Hannah, which originally started as a fitness account because sports and fitness had been a part of my life before my disorder. And that was something that I lost in this disorder because I was abusing it, which then meant that I had to get rid of it in order to learn how to love it again, which sounds a little backwards, but I had to break that addiction to it in order to find balance with exercise again. So once I found that exercise again and that balance with it, I wanted to be able to show it off and show that I'm building my body up rather than tearing it down. So I made that account solely to be fitness oriented. But as I started to progress in my recovery, I realized that my physical aspect of recovery is 10% of the equation and that I needed to do so much more in order to show what recovery really looks like. So that's when I evolved more into what my account is today, which is health, wellness, lifestyle in general, taking recovery also as something that's not linear. It's something that's constantly going up and down still for myself, even in a full recovery. I still do have bad days, and I'm very transparent in that on my account. I also talk about the really happy moments, the really scary moments, the stressful moments. I talk about the vulnerability that is so beautiful with humans and how we can be so resilient and so transparent in our struggles in order to help others. And I think that the number one thing with my Instagram account is the fact that it's not cliche. It's not something that I found a quote and I then post that quote. It's more of being really personal, talking about actual words that have gone through my head, actual things that I've seen and felt. And that's what sets it apart. So it's taking that more personal aspect into recovery and showing people that it's worth it. It's hard as hell, but it's worth it. But if they can see what it really looks like, maybe I can encourage them to do it as well. Because the unknown of recovery is almost scarier than the process. So by showing them what it looks like, I feel like that's the best way to go about it. And that's what I wish I had when I was going through it. So with that Instagram account, I then started a blog, which is very similar. And it's just a longer version of my thoughts and my advice and my wisdom from what I've learned throughout my process. From that, I've been able to gain a really, really great following and build an incredible community based on my struggles, but not necessarily just eating disorders, mental health, happiness, anything like that. People are struggling with all sorts of different issues, but we've been able to connect on that. So I've been asked to be on ABC 27 and speak about my eating disorder recovery, my platform, and my approach to mental health. I've been featured in the Daily Mirror and Daily Mirror, which was in London, another London news publication, Daily Mail. And then recently, I've been featured on Eating Recovery Center's blog, which is who I hope to work with when I graduate from school, and a bunch of smaller news networks like Elon Local News and things like that to be able to spread this platform. So seeing from what it started with to what it is now is incredible because this journey really hit its rock bottom my freshman year. Now I'm a senior and I'm graduating and I feel like I've made that full circle, which is so cool. But based on that platform and based on what I've learned, there's so many things about mental health that need to be advocated for and need to be talked about. And I don't think that they're talked about necessarily in the right way on social media because of that highlight reel that we all tend to fall into. And even with other Instagram accounts that I follow, I notice that a lot of them do fall victim to that highlight reel and feeling like they can't show that transparent side of them. And I think that what makes my account so relatable and so successful is the fact that people aren't going to me thinking that I'm the perfect image of recovery because there isn't one. It's more the fact that they can relate to me and see that I struggle, but I'm still moving forward. And knowing that those steps backwards are totally fine and totally okay. And that's where you learn your strength and that's where you discover how strong you really are. So this account has been incredible for me. And I think making that connection and making the community that I work with so much stronger, again, keeps me on track, but it's opened so many doors for me. And with my past internship over the summer, I was working with Eating Recovery Center, and I've gotten to work with a lot of professionals in the field, and that's building my credibility up even more. And having my name attached to theirs is something that I never expected. The woman that I actually worked for is the author of the book that I read when I was in treatment. And I attribute so much of my motivation to her in order to recover. So when I reached out to her to work for her, getting the email back that she was interested and knowing that she had heard my name before and knowing that I was a positive recovery advocate made me tear up every time I thought about it. So that's something that's totally full circle, and being able to see how far I've come is incredible. But this year I started an organization called Project Heal on my university's campus, which is a nationwide organization that I brought a chapter to Elon. And it's spreading awareness, education, and advocacy for eating disorders. But our main purpose is to raise money for a national treatment fund that goes to individuals who can't afford treatment or whose insurance doesn't cover it. And we donate and fundraise as much as we can in order to give to that fund. So that's something that I'm really, really proud of, and something that I wholeheartedly pride myself on, is having my name attached to the founder of Project Heal Elon, but also being the leader of it right now and getting to see all the people and lives that I touch through that. So that's a very, very quick recap of my story. It's been up and down, of course. So again, started when I was 16. I'm 21 years old now, and it's going to be something that I spend the rest of my life dedicating my time and energy to. But I think that the platforms that I've developed, the connections that I've made, and all the love and support that I've found throughout this is something that, again, not only benefits me, but everybody that I get to talk to. And I think that this is something very similar to what y'all do, which is so cool, and something that coaching and advice giving and just listening is something that needs to be done more. So getting to talk to people who do something similar is amazing. And I'm really, really grateful for everything that I've been able to do so far.
Awesome. You're 21 and look at all the stuff you've done already. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing your story in more detail than what I did.
It's tough to recap.
Yeah, no, you're doing awesome stuff. So what would you say to someone who is too afraid to put their dirty laundry out there on social media? And I don't mean drama, but actual things about their past that maybe they're afraid to talk to. What would be your best advice for those maybe coaches on our team or people in general who have something really amazing to share that can make a difference, but they're just too afraid to do it?
Absolutely. That's something that I struggled with as well, which is actually why I started that account as a fitness account. I aligned myself with recovery, but was too scared to admit the fact that I am in recovery and that I had suffered so badly from something that I was shameful of. And I think that that's my number one piece of advice, is that we are human and that it's not shameful at all to have struggled. And what everybody needs to realize and take into account is that we all have struggles, some so horrible, some that are so hard to talk about. But there is at least one other person out there who has felt the same way or gone through the same thing. And hiding that from them, I think, is something that just keeps us trapped in these disorders and these ugly thoughts, and being trapped in that shame as well. So my number one piece of advice is always to be transparent, because that's something that has not only helped me, but that's what my followers tell me has helped them so much. Because by letting those walls down and by just saying what's on my mind, they're able to relate and connect to it and then apply it to their own lives. So I think, as well as my blog and everything like that, that's been something that was also challenging, because it's longer and it's more in depth and it's hard to know how people are responding to it. So I've had a couple of people reach out and say they want to start their own and they're nervous. And I always say the same thing, is that try it, see what happens. And before you do it, maybe weigh the pros and cons in your head and think of whether this is going to be more beneficial or possibly more detrimental, and think about where you are in your state of mind before you do it. And then once you get past that part, I always say just go for it. If you realize that it's not working for you, you can always stop. If you realize that something you've said or something that somebody has responded to has hurt you in some way, you stop. But again, you have to think about how many lives you can touch. And I still get negative feedback. Heck, everybody gets negative feedback. It's part of the process. But if you can touch one or two lives, I think it's worth it. So that transparency is number one, but also just having the chutzpah to go for it and realize that you could touch so many lives, and not being afraid of what the feedback is going to be, because I guarantee you it'll hurt more than it'll offend.
Definitely. I mean, there's so many people that have gone through a lot of the same experiences that we have, and we wouldn't know it if we didn't, put ourselves out there and connect with each other. I know there are a lot of girls on our team who we all have things in common with one another, and if we hadn't have put it out there, we hadn't have reached out to each other, we wouldn't be here. So it's just really cool to see the way that social media has, changed the way that people interact, changed the way that you can connect with people, and also just kind of change the way that, people can make an impact on the world. You can impact so many more lives now than you could before we had something like this. So it just really takes your platform from being so small and just to the people to everyone in the whole world who has an Instagram account, pretty much. So it's really awesome what you're doing. I don't know if anyone has any questions for Hannah. I want to make sure that we get those asked. So if you have a question you want to ask her, pick her brain, now's your time.
Yeah, please do. Pick my brain.
It could be about anything. It could be about our story. It could be about her recovery process, about how she puts it out there on social media, anything about Instagram, because she's killing it over there. You're welcome. Where were you follower-wise when you started this? Because you've got quite a few now.
Goodness. I was actually just the other day reflecting on when I had started it, and I would reach out to so many accounts asking them how the heck you build your platform. I was like, is it just time? Is it luck? Is it if one person sees it and shares it and that person has a lot of followers? And every person said the same thing. They said it's persistence. If you have good quality, you have good content, and you're getting your name out there, that's the best thing to do. So when I first started, I'm not kidding, I think I celebrated the day I got to 100 followers. I had no idea that it was going to be something larger than that. I was just happy to have a few people see it, and 98% of them were friends and family. So growing that was really slow and steady and frustrating, because when you start to realize that you are getting that following, but it's not growing even as fraction as fast as you thought it would, it can get a little discouraging. But with time, it grows and it grows. And I think that the biggest thing for me is reaching out to accounts that are similar. So I would comment on a lot of people's things and reach out to them personally and message them and say that I love what they're doing and I love the way that they've expressed their message, and if they had any advice for me. And just not being afraid to reach out, because I've, again, made so many connections that way. And now those people fully support my account and spread my message to other people and encourage them to check my stuff out, which is awesome. But I would say that within the last year, it's grown substantially. And this summer was definitely the largest growth for me with the TV appearances and then being in the Daily Mail and Daily Mirror, because that's international. So I got that international presence, which was incredible. And I think that that's something that really pushed up the following.
That's awesome. So a lot of it is just as far as what you're doing, how often are you posting? Are you posting 3 times a day, or?
That took a while for me to figure out. So when I first started, I knew that I just needed to build content. So I was posting usually twice a day. And you learn as you go. I learned what was good content. I learned what wasn't so popular and stuff like that. But as I started to get more quality content, I cut it down to 1 time a day, because if you have a good post, you don't need to do anything more than that. But even 1 time a day, so that's 7 a week, is a lot for certain accounts. But the reason I do that is because I'm reaching out to a population who needs that reminder every day, and who needs that reassurance that you're going to get through this day, or this is what you need to remember today, or if you're having a bad moment, read this. So I think it's something that needs that daily post. And I've noticed that if I don't post every day, I do start to lose a little bit of following. So I think that people are really seeking that 24-hour reassurance. But for me, the time of day and everything like that is so all over the place, because my schedule is all over the place. And I think with the account that I have developed in the population that I target, that morning is usually the best for me, because I think that people are trying to start their day on the right foot. So that's what I've noticed is usually the best for me. But life has been really crazy lately, and I get frustrated when I can't post every day, or when I can't post in the morning and stuff like that. But you just roll with it. But that's usually how often, which some people are like, oh my God, that's so much. But it's worked for me so far.
Yeah, it's definitely important to show up every day, and it's working for you. So that's great.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I had another question and I totally just disappeared out of my head and I forgot what it was. Does anyone else have any questions while we're here? You guys are super quiet today.
I'll ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. As far as content and quality goes, I know you spoke about that being important and trial and error and things of that nature. How did you really find that like niche of what worked for you?
So I used so many different accounts for models. I knew that there was a certain, not energy to my page, but there was a certain color content. There was something that I needed. I wanted things to be bright and cheery and happy. I know that a lot of accounts that I look at are very serious, which I love. They're great quality, but I wanted my account to have that positive feel to it when you go on. So that's something that I then developed as I went through, as well as the fact that I love my account to look a little bit put together with all the photos and stuff like that. So that is something that I keep in mind, using similar filters, similar coloring, that sort of thing. It just gives the page a lot more professional look, which is something I love and something I've seen in other accounts that I think looks really good and really sharp. In terms of actual quality and content, something that I've struggled with is the fact that now that I'm promoting certain brands, followers don't like to see promoted things or like sponsored posts and things like that, because that's not what they're looking for. It's something that I need to do in order to build my credibility, but something that I noticed isn't too popular with followers. So something that I've learned from that is that personal touch and that really true, authentic voice for myself is crucial. When I do a short caption or a really cliche thought or something like that, that's not what my followers are looking for. So I've catered all of my captions and posts to see and speak that message in a really personal tone. And kind of taking away that barrier of, okay, she's just an Instagram account. I want people to know that it's me. It's Hannah speaking and not just somebody posting behind a screen. And then with photos, that's something that has been tough because I do have a photographer who helps me, but there's not a lot of times that I can meet. So I think that variety in photos has been a little tough because there's like one place that I can post that's aesthetically pleasing or take photos myself, like on a self timer, which is so difficult. So I think that keeping that variety on the page is also really important and making sure that the quality of those photos is good, because I didn't even realize 3 days in a row I posted photos with the same exact background. I even said to myself, I was like, this is so boring. So making sure you're spicing it up a little bit is awesome. And just having that unison across the page and making sure that nothing really sticks out and jabs at you the wrong way. And just having that synonymous tone across the whole thing. So happy, uplifting, bright, all of those things that I portray through my message as well.
Cool, thanks.
Of course. Thank you for asking.
I got my notes here.
Do you use that app Unum at all? Do you know about that one?
I don't. What is that?
No, it's a really cool app that you can put, like, it pulls up your Instagram feed and allows you to kind of like sort photos before you post them on Instagram, like where you want them to go.
Oh.
I think that'd be something you would like based on like what you were just saying, how you want the aesthetically pleasing full image. I do the same thing with mine. I think that you would like that app a lot. I think it's free too.
Yeah, that's something I'll keep in mind. That's super helpful.
Yeah, it's UNUM is how you spell it.
Writing it down.
Yeah, it's very helpful. So I just wanted to share that with you while you were on here. Any other questions or anything?
I have a question. So you said that you're super busy. So do you plan out your posts ahead of time, or like do you kind of come up with them every day, or like what's kind of your process for that?
So I love, my favorite thing, and I feel the best about it, is when I can write the post the night before and post the next morning. So I'll be in bed at the end of the day, I'll write it up, I'll edit the photo, put everything together, and all I have to do the next morning is proofread and post. That's the best thing for me to do. Ideally, that happens. A lot of the time, I'm going to bed super late, and the last thing I want to do is stay awake for one more minute. So sometimes I'll have to do that throughout the day. And I get frazzled because a lot of the time I'm rushed and I'm not paying attention. And I think that's when the posts start to suffer. So pre-planning is crucial, and I love being able to do it. But again, it doesn't always happen. And with planning, sometimes it's hard to come up with something to talk about, because every day when you're posting a pretty lengthy caption, you have to have some sort of good content in order to be able to talk about it. So what I do a lot of the time is I'll go around, and in my phone, I have a list of probably 100 phrases or words or anything that I've seen or heard that would motivate me to talk about something that I would then share with my platform. So that's something that I always have ongoing. If something strikes me in the middle of the day, I'll write it down and write down something brief that I can then elaborate on And that's really helpful because if I'm sitting there and trying to force something to talk about, if I'm sitting, I'm like, oh gosh, I really need to post this morning. I have no idea what I'm going to say. It sounds forced. So letting it come out naturally is really, really important. And I love when that happens. Some mornings I'll just be making breakfast and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I just start writing. And that's when it sounds the best and when it sounds the most natural. So that's amazing. Love when that happens. But again, sometimes it's not a perfect world. But having that ongoing list is really important because when I am struggling to think about something, I'll go back to a thought that I had earlier and then just try to elaborate on it.
Mm-hmm. What about with the photos? Like, do you have like a bunch of photos that you?
I go through periods where when I'm able to meet with my photographer, she will take so many and then I'll be able to post them sporadically. So that's awesome. And I hate knowing that like for 4 days, I'm like, I'm going to have to squeeze some sort of picture in here. It might not be that good, but I just need to get content out. And that's when I get frustrated because I don't like posting anything that's not the best that I can post. So I like right now I have 5 photos stored ready to post on my Instagram. And that's something that brings me a lot more relief. But sometimes it is the day of, and I wish there was more of like a routine process that I went through. But life gets in the way. So whenever I am doing that day of post, I've learned that instead of just trying to push it out and get it out there by a certain hour, I'll take the time to make sure I'm sitting and I'm looking at it and I'm going over it. And if it's not good, I don't post that day. Because I've realized that getting the content out there that isn't my best isn't worth it because it's not well delivered and it's not well spoken. So there are days that I'll just skip it all together, but I love when I can have like a bank of pictures that I can post for. And I'm working on building that up more a little because I have time now. Last 2 weeks were horrible, but I have a little bit more time now. So that's something that I'm working on.
Thank you. Because that's something I struggle with. Every day I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to take a picture of something. Like,
I know. And then you're like, well, what the heck do I take a picture of? And then it's a stupid picture, something that you've already done and you try to replicate it.
All of myself look exactly the same. All my food pictures look exactly the same.
Yeah, I know. That's why whenever, and I've gotten rid of this, like, I feel so embarrassed to ask somebody to take a photo of me because my friends now know, they're like, Hannah's going to want a picture of this. And they're like, just someone take a photo for her because she's going to ask for it. When you're out and you're somewhere else, or if you're in like a really beautiful place or something like that, that's what people want to see. It's different and it's beautiful and it's you're not used to. So I've gotten so over the fact that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. Can you take a photo of me? Or like, can you like get in this photo with me or something like that? Like, go for it. It's going to be beautiful and it's going to be worth it.
Definitely.
Yeah, anytime you travel, it's like a really great time to just take a bunch of pictures.
Absolutely. I know, like build them up just anywhere you go. Just keep taking because you'll use them eventually.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're just like out for a walk and there's a nice wall or something, take a picture.
Oh, yeah. I'm always looking for walls. Always. I like keep my eyes open for them.
Yeah.
I'm a mom, so my variety of pictures will be like, here's me at the fridge. Here's me in the bottle.
But that's okay because that's your brand. That's fine.
I know.
Exactly. Not everybody is going for the same population. There are so many moms out there that would so much rather see you with your kid than you in gym clothes going on a walk or you going to the bookstore to pick out something for your vacation. Like they want to see you a mom. So be a mom and be proud of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Any more questions? I saw someone raise their hand. Not like physically, but it said it said Jules raised her hand on the bottom of my screen. So did you have a question? I'll unmute you so you can talk.
I did not actually have a question, so sorry. I am driving right now, so
Okay.
Sorry, I was trying to hit the mute button.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. No, I just wanted to make sure that if you did have a question that you got to ask it. That's all.
No worries. Thanks for responding.
All right. Drive safe.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh my goodness. Okay. So I wanted to really quickly take all of the stuff that we've been talking about that we learned with Hannah and help us apply it to our businesses specifically. And before I even did that, I want to thank you for taking time out of your night to be here with us. It's so amazing that you have done all of these awesome things so far in your life. You're only 21, which is super cool. You know, there's a lot of people out there who are like 40 and they haven't done half the stuff you've done. So it's great. And you're really an inspiration to all of us and everyone out there who follows you on Instagram. You know, your following is super interactive with you. You get a lot of engagement on your posts. So you're definitely, you know, you're doing something that is adding value to other people's lives. And that's exactly what your mission was, I'm sure. So thank you so much for taking time out of your night to be here. You can stick around. I'm not kicking you off, but I wanted to make sure that we thanked you in case you had to leave and I didn't get to say thank you. So we really do appreciate you coming out here and talking to us. It was really cool to kind of hear from an outsider's perspective as well, because, you know, we all do the same thing, but in a different way. So it's just really neat to hear from you, and thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Seriously, it means the world to be able to talk about it and talk about people who are going to hopefully use at least one thing that I've said, because then it makes me feel like I'm doing something that's purposeful. So thank you so much. And I really wish all of you the best of luck. You're doing amazing things. Whether you realize it or not, every post and every word is helping someone. So amazing. Thank you guys for what you do, and thank you for having me. It's so awesome.
Anytime. Thanks for being here.
Of course. I'm going to head off so that I can go. I have a biology exam that I need to study for. It's just college problems. So have a wonderful night, and I will hopefully talk to you soon, Carolyn. And everybody else, have a wonderful evening.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Thank you so much. Oh, she's so cute, isn't she? She's awesome. I love her. Okay, so before everybody else goes away, I did want to just talk about this so we can apply it to our businesses specifically. I wanted to just quickly explain to everyone that, you know, a lot of times we don't realize how many stories we have. And we really do have a lot of different kinds of stories that we can share. And sometimes we think, oh, well, I already told that story, or I already talked about this. But you have to remember, people who are seeing your stuff, they're not going to see it every single day. They're not going to remember that you talked about being bullied yesterday and you talked about it 3 days later. And that if you are talking about it like the same thing, that's not a bad thing. Like, you want to let people, you know, understand your story, but you also, they have to see it more than once to actually really feel like they're a part of it. So it's definitely important not only to talk about your story often, but also to, you know, remember you have multiple stories. You don't just have one story. These are just some things that I brainstormed as far as how many different kinds of stories you can have in this business. You're going to have a transformation story, whether you lost a bunch of weight or maybe you just got healthier, you got fitter. That's a transformation story. Maybe you had an emotional transformation story or a mental transformation. It doesn't have to be physical, but you will have a transformation story, and you're different now than you are when you started. You also have a story about being a part of a team, being a part of a community. Maybe that's not something you had before. Maybe you were on a sports team in the past and you always played sports, and then you went to college and stopped playing sports and lost that team aspect. These are all ideas and things that you can talk about if they pertain to your story. You're going to have a time story. I bet you at some point you felt like you didn't have time to do this, but you're doing it and you're making it work. So that's another thing that you can talk about, and you can share your story of how you made it work when you had a crazy schedule. I know that Emmy talks about, you know, having several jobs and being in school all the time. When she started, she actually just had surgery when she started. She could have made every excuse, and she talks about that openly. And I know a lot of us do as well, but I just want to point it out. It's not just about your physical transformation. There's so many other aspects of your story. You have a money story. Maybe you didn't have the money to get started, but you found a way to get the money together and make it work because it was important to you. Or maybe you needed this because you needed to create an extra income for your family, or for whatever reason. So that's just another kind of story that you can talk about. You always have your before Beachbody story. That's the person you were before, the things that you've gone through in your life, which kind of ties into your past struggles. But think about what you were looking for when you found Beachbody. What kind of things were you needing in your life? Were you needing support? Were you needing a community, a family? Were you needing an at-home fitness program that only took 30 minutes because you had no time for anything else? Were you needing support and accountability with your nutrition? all of these things that we kind of forget about once we've been coaching for so long, that it all started, all of the things that are going to help other people are the things that, attracted us to this. So definitely look back at who you were before you started as well when you're thinking about sharing your story. You have your day-to-day story. You have your Instagram story. You have your Snapchat story, whatever, your Facebook story. There's stories on every platform now, it seems. But these are also just as important as making posts about your story, because people want to see the actual you, like the actual life that you're living, what your day-to-day looks like. They want to see inside, sneak peek of your life. So don't forget to be sharing with people the day-to-day. And nothing is ever boring. Like, you can make the most boring things unboring, and you can make something that may seem so stupid, like, oh, I have to do laundry today or whatever, but you can make it funny. You can make it into something that is relatable. Everyone does laundry, so everybody can relate to that. You also have a story about maybe qualifications wise. Maybe you felt unqualified to do this kind of job, or you didn't have the qualifications. You weren't a personal trainer, or maybe you aren't a nutritionist, or maybe you are. Those are things that you can talk about on your social media as well, because a lot of times people think you need to have all of those things to be successful at this. You have your freedom story, or maybe if you don't have that yet, you're working on it. Maybe you're looking to leave your job, or you're looking to be financially free, and you could talk about how you're doing that, and you're putting in the work every single day, and that one day you'll be able to stay home with your family or get to travel with your partner or whatever that may be. This is something that I talk about quite a lot, because this is my job now. I don't have to go to a 9-to-5, but it's also something that I have to consciously remind myself, to go back to where I was before, because I've been out of a 9-to-5 job for almost 2 years now. I forget what that life is like. So always go back to that person you were, but don't forget to talk about the person you are now, and also the person that you're becoming, and the person that you are working towards becoming, because that is also really inspiring for other people to see someone that they can relate to becoming this person that maybe you never thought that you could be. You're also going to have financial success stories as you continue to grow in this business, and even as you're just getting started. Let's say you make your first paycheck and you made $50 and you put gas in your car. That's a success. That's awesome. Those are things that people can relate to. Sometimes people can't relate to those really big successes of you, like paying off $72,000 of student loan debt. Like, wow, that's amazing. I would love to do that. But people kind of see that sometimes and say, well, I can never do that. But if you say you used your paycheck to, pay for your kids to do extracurricular activities, or, you got to buy yourself a new pair of shoes with the money that you earned, those are things that people can see themselves doing, and those are things that they can relate to. You're also going to have niche and avatar kind of stories. So those are just very specific to who you are, the things that would relate to the kind of people that you are looking to help. And it just really has to do with who you are as a person. So I know we're all kind of the same, but we're all very different, and we all have a different kind of group of people that we're attracting to us. So that type of story would be very specific to your target market. So maybe, for me, maybe it would be something about being a teacher, because that's part of my target market, or, whatever it is that is. Maybe if you're a mom, that would be a story about being a mom. Like, oh my God, I can't believe the morning I had, yada, yada, yada. And then kind of flip it around and making it a positive kind of thing. I said time and money twice, so we don't need to say that one again. And then the Shakeology story. You all have a Shakeology story. If you're drinking Shakeology consistently, you should have a Shakeology story. Even if it's your first week, I'm sure you're seeing changes in your energy levels. Maybe you haven't gotten it yet, but you're excited about getting it. We all have a story with Shakeology, and it's really important that you don't just drink your shake every day and like check off that box on your tracker. You actually think about, kind of be conscious of how it's helping you, and be conscious of wow, I have more energy than I ever did in my life, and be conscious of, wow, my roots are growing out a lot, my hair is growing fast, or my nails are growing, or my skin is clear, or wow, I'm not bloated anymore, or I don't have as many cravings as I used to. So all of these things that you're you're recognizing, and your health as you're drinking psychology, these are all little mini stories that you can be sharing with people on your social media, because we all know that stories are going to help you build a business, and facts are only going to tell. The stories are what's going to make the big difference for you. So these are just a couple of tips for sharing, and they are just to kind of, when you're posting, you want to make sure that your story isn't, you're not just telling a story just to tell a story. When you're telling your story, you want to make sure you're adding value to other people who are reading it. So kind of like how, Hannah was talking about, when she puts a story out there, she wants to be as transparent as possible, because she knows that what she's saying is going to help other people. And she's not just like talking about how she went to the store and bought Cheetos or whatever. Like she's adding value to people's lives. She's connecting, she's being transparent, and she's giving them something that they can relate to. Your stories can also entertain people. So if you want to tell a funny story about something silly that happened, that's something that you can do as well. It's showing who you are. It's allowing people to see your funny side, your humorous side. Also informing people of something. So I'm really bad at thinking of examples off the top of my head, but let's say, you watched a documentary on, I don't know, on eating a plant-based diet, and you learned something from that. You can share your story and share a story about how you were just watching this documentary and this is what I learned. Like, that's informing people about what you have learned. So you're adding value to them by teaching them something. You always want to keep it positive. So the post I just made before I hopped on this call is a great example of that. We had a mold issue in our house. I got absolutely nothing done today. It was the most unproductive day of my life, because after all the other errands I ran, I had to come home and take care of the mold. But I got to hop on a call with all of you guys after, and that made my day happy. So that was kind of what I did with that post. Anytime you tell a story, it's okay to get emotional and go into the dark parts of your life and share that, but you always kind of want to have a positive spin on it. You don't want to just be that person on Facebook that's just like bitching about everything and complaining about all of the problems in your life. You always want to make sure that, you're adding value and you're helping somebody with your post. Yeah, I mean, just be the hero of your own story. That's you also want to be transparent, which we talked about. So, not holding anything back. I mean, there are probably going to be some things you're afraid to talk about, and maybe right now isn't the time for you to share those things. But as you go further and further in your business and you grow your confidence, it gets to that point where you feel ready to share those things, then you can share those things. It's not like, you have to share everything right away. You also kind of don't want to share it all in one post. You want to breadcrumb it throughout, but don't ever feel like you're being forced to share something. But whenever you feel the time is right to share it, you'll know. You'll feel that weird butterfly feeling, and you'll be so afraid to hit the enter button. But when you hit the enter button, it's already out there, so there's no reason to go back and delete it. And your post is going to help so many people. You also want to share frequently. Like I said, you don't want to just share your story once and assume that everybody has seen it. You want to make sure you're sharing it pretty frequently, at least once a week, I would say, just covering one part of your story, because this is what's going to help you connect to your tribe and connect to the people who understand you, they get you, they're like you. And also, you really want to attach to the emotional part of, like, when you're speaking, you want to really grab people's emotions, because emotions are responsible for making decisions. So if you can really hit somebody emotionally, they're probably more likely to reach out to you or to join you or to ask you what you're doing, because your decisions that we make are all based upon our emotions. Like, you use your gut to make decisions. It's your emotions that you make decisions with. And each time you share, you're just going to be building more and more trust with the people who are following you. So I had a couple examples just to show you. I only had two. I don't want to take too much, but this is something that was really hard for me to share. And I even said that. I'm like, this is so hard to post. But this picture was from about 2 years ago. This is when I was doing Insanity Max 30. I was teaching. I was taking grad classes. I was driving 2 hours. So I kind of used this story. I multifaceted this story. I talked about, like, wow, I used to look like that. I don't look like that anymore. But I also talked about how I was actually at the busiest point in life when I looked like that. So for those people out there who feel like they don't have the time to do this, they're so wrong, because when you're really busy, sometimes you're actually more productive, and you actually, as you can see, are more on track because you have no other option but to eat the food you pack for lunch, and you're not 2 steps away from the kitchen at all times of the day. So that was a way for me to share the time part of my story, but also kind of taking a step back in my fitness, which was hard to openly share. I mean, obviously we grow, we get older, we change, our bodies change. They're not always going to look the same. I get that. But this was definitely something that I did get a lot of feedback from, and people reaching out to me from, just from being open about that. And I don't know why there's glitter on this one. There's not supposed to be. But this was another one too. You can't see the quote part, but it says depressed and left out. I can't fix that, but I can fix the drink. So I kind of used part of my target market, part of my, I like country music. I like drinking from here and there, like casually drinking now. It used to be, as you can tell in this post, it used to be a bigger part of my life than it is now. It used to be like an everyday kind of thing. But that was the point of this post, not the fact that there's a pot leaf on my drink, but that's what most people message me about. But the post here was to show, like I was sharing my story from college about how I drank a lot more than I should have. I would always like do my homework and have my box of wine next to me. And I would always kind of stay in my room and drink wine and do my homework because I was kind of a loner for a chunk of my college time. And I was one of those people that was like so excited to be out of school and not crying because I was missing the friends that I was leaving. So this was something for me that was a very shitty experience that I was sharing. But I talked about how I was taking that terrible experience, and it's taught me a lot about myself, and it's taught me, like I've built my business upon the fact that I was treated like garbage in college, and the fact that I didn't have a great group of friends or growing up or any of that. Like all of that stuff is in this post, and I'm using that to build my business. So I'm taking that garbage story, flipping it over and turning it into a positive. And of course, I mean, this picture, I guess, was an attention grabber as well. So, but I mean, what you really want to think about the most is, like Hannah said, you all have things that you want to share with people. We all have awesome stories. We all have things we've gone through in our lives. And although sometimes we feel like we're the only one, we're never the only one. There's always something else that you have to share that can help somebody else. So that's it. I didn't want to take up too much time, but I did want to kind of take what she had talked about and help you figure out different things you can share in your business based on like what we do specifically. So does anyone have any questions on that? Yeah, we lost a few people, but that's okay. We good? All right. So we've got a day left in the month. Tomorrow's Halloween. So if you haven't hit Success Club, you might want to use tonight to do that because tomorrow's Halloween. Just saying. But next month is going to be that November to Remember. So make sure you have a partner for that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, reach out to your coach and get together with a partner. It's definitely a great thing for you to do if you want to build your business and you want to have success, because having a partner to push you and hold you accountable is a really great thing. So reach out to your coach if you don't have a partner yet, and you will get together with one. If you do have a partner, make sure you're in a chat together and you're communicating with one another. And just have an awesome Halloween if you guys are going out and going trick-or-treating or whatever you guys do at this age. Or maybe you're taking your kids trick-or-treating. But yeah, thank you for hopping on the call. It means a lot to have you here. And I'm happy that you got to hear from Hannah tonight. She's a really amazing person. So thanks a lot. And let's have an amazing November. Yeah.
Thank
right.
you.
I'll see you next week, I think. No, I won't see you next week.
No, you'll be in Vegas, girl. What are you talking
I'll be in Vegas, yeah. But we will see you in 2 weeks then.
All right. Have a
All right,
good
bye.
Bye.
We'll still have a call. I just won't be on it. That's okay.